Can I ask you, whose permission are you looking for before you get started? Now you're probably saying to yourself, well, nobody's, or why would you ask a question like that? But I'm here to tell you that the majority of people, for whatever reason, think that there is some magical person, some magical group that they need to appease before they get started. It's almost like they need to go to the Queen or whatever, and she comes out with a long sword and she reaches out and taps them on the shoulder and then says, behold, or whatever, you can now go off and be a fiction writer, or you can be a blogger, or you can be a podcaster, and away you go. And then from that moment on, then suddenly they have this right that they can do whatever they want to do. And I know when I used to be a shelf stacker, for the longest time I used to listen to Kevin Smith podcasts, and whether you like him or not, it's not really the argument here. What I mean is, for the longest time I used to enjoy listening to his podcast, and he used to always say, anybody could do this stuff that I'm doing here. You just need a microphone, a couple of friends or whatever, or even talk on your own, and you can have a podcast. And for the longest time I kept thinking, yeah, I would love to have my own podcast, or I would love to maybe get into fiction writing. And I used to look up to people, who, like Kevin, who used to do those things, who used to have a podcast or used to write books or whatever, and I would hold them up to some, huge level. But I never got started because I thought that I needed permission from somebody. There was some magical group, some magical person that I needed to go to get anointed to say that I was suitable to do that. And again, that probably sounds ridiculous when you actually hold it out into the light of day, but a lot of people are like that. A lot of people are looking for permission from somebody to get started. I know when I was listening to Dan Meredith from Coffee with Dan fame, again, if you don't know Dan, go over to Coffee with Dan and join up with the group. It's a really, really great group. But Dan used to do these turbo calls, and he said one time he did it as a favour to a mentor of his. He'd done a couple of hundred turbo calls, and what the turbo call was basically a phone call where you would ring somebody. Maybe they had bought a product and the mentor had promised them maybe 10 or 15 minute call where you would kind of go through their business or whatever, or help them with ideas, or clarify something for them. So it was a bit of a bonus or whatever, but he was too busy to do that. So he knew Dan was well capable to do those turbo calls, so he gave the work to Dan. So Dan made those calls. As he said, it was a couple of hundred calls he had made, and again, they're only for maybe 10 or 15 minutes. But he said about 70 or 80% of those calls were people who knew what they should be doing. They knew exactly, they had the knowledge, but they were looking for permission from somebody before they could get started. They needed somebody to say, that's a good idea, why didn't you go start acting on it? Maybe they had the idea for a podcast or a website or a product, but they've been holding back for the longest time because they needed this permission from somebody to take the handbrake off and put the car in gear and do whatever action they needed to do. So I'm here to tell you that you don't need anyone's permission. There's no excuse for you not writing a fiction book tomorrow. Yes, you mightn't have the skills, and yes, the book might suck, but there's no reason why you can't write that book that sucks, and you get better over time as the more and more you write. Or there's no reason why you can't start a podcast today. There's no reason why you can't finish this video here, grab a microphone or go order one on Amazon and start recording a podcast episode. There's no reason you can't do any of those things you've been putting off for the longest time. Because as I said, we are all stupid in that way, in that we need to look for permission from somebody. We're afraid of criticism, we're afraid somebody's going to shoot us down. But when you look at it, the majority of people who criticise other people are usually people who don't do the thing that that the other person has done. You get a lot of people who will criticise a movie but wouldn't know how to actually put a movie together, or have maybe sat on that dream of creating their own movie, and because it seems too big for them, they would rather sit in their safe space and criticise everybody else who creates a movie. Or maybe somebody who tears apart a fiction book and says, oh, that fiction book is terrible, and yet they're the same person sitting in their safe space who would love to write a fiction book, but it's safer just to sit on the sidelines and criticise somebody else. Whereas the person that actually got off their arse, sat down and wrote that book, is a higher, to me, is a lot more a better person. Even though that book may be crap, it's the fact that they have actually got out and done that, it means that they are far ahead of that other person than the critic. So as I said, you are going to get critics. They're going to criticise you for everything you do. You're never going to get 100 things 100% perfect. I got tongue twisted there for a second. But as I said, there is nobody's permission you need to ask for. You know, you could write your next fiction book in the next 5 minutes. You could, as I said, record a podcast or whatever it is. There is nobody that you need to ask for. And if there is somebody you need to ask permission from, you know, go ahead and ask them. But I'm here to tell you that you don't need to. And there may be this magical group that you think you need to get approval of. You know, you're going to be constantly running around looking to find that group, and I'm here to tell you that that is a waste of time. You would be better off just going ahead and taking action on what you need to do. So, as I said, as Kevin and Dan would tell you, you know, do the thing. As Dan has a motto, he says that it's better to fire and then aim later on. So what he means by that is do the work even though it is crap, and over time you'll improve and you can kind of get better and better and better at it. But if you don't start, you'll never get better at it. So instead of looking for somebody's approval today, why not spend that time today actually doing the thing that you want to do? And as I said, you're going to get criticism, but just ignore it, because the majority of people who will criticize you are people who would love to do the thing that you're doing but just haven't got the balls to do it. So, you know, anything that you want to do usually just takes a bit of balls and, you know, a bit of resilience to criticism. So go ahead and do it. So if you'd like to know more about me, or if you'd like to find out more of these videos, you're very welcome to come over to writecome.com. That's WRITECOME.com. Or if you'd like to get in touch with me, I am Barry J. McDonald, and you can find me at barryjmcdonald@gmail.com. You can send me an email and I'll get in touch if you have any questions, or if you'd like me to go through something in a future video. So as always, thanks for sharing your time with me again today, and take care and have a great day. Bye bye.